In talking about loneliness, loneliness doesn't know an age, as far as I know. We've all been lonely at different ages in our lives. But the question I have is, can loneliness be more serious as we age, as we become older?
Well, certainly I think that that's a possibility. In reading about loneliness, it was noted that the general population, 20% report themselves as lonely, but the elderly population, 43% reported themselves as lonely. So I don't know that it's inevitable as we age that we become lonely, but certainly it is proportionally higher as we age.
Let's define some terms, because being alone is not the same as loneliness, correct?
Loneliness is really a feeling that you have internally, and being alone is a state of aloneness. So when you think about the differences between those things, you can have this emotional feature whether you're in the presence of other people or whether you're alone.
Now, you hit up on something I want to talk about, the health-related issues that can be related to loneliness. What are some of the health-related issues?
The three that come to mind are really risk of infection, cardiovascular risk, and problems with continued mobility and stamina.
Is there a link between loneliness and depression?
I believe that having the symptom of loneliness could actually come before having depression, but certainly loneliness is an integral part of having depression, as well as certain anxiety disorders that are common in the elderly. Some people, a very few number of people, have loneliness, and that's a part of their personality, that they feel isolated, or they feel lonely, or they have a lack of connectedness with other people. We certainly know that the elderly are at a higher risk for loss, and the loss can lead to a loneliness that they'll need to find ways to overcome.
Yeah, in that context, of course, as one ages, you may lose a spouse, you may lose all of your close friends, they may die before you. It sort of leads me to what we talked about earlier, the fact that one of the myths of aging is that loneliness is inevitable simply because of death. Everybody's dying out around you. Is loneliness inevitable in aging?
I don't know that it's inevitable. The factors are certainly there. So certainly as we age and experience losses, there's an emptiness, a big gap in our life. But it depends on that person's particular coping skills, how they fill that gap and how they can heal from that loss that they've had.
Let's talk about technology for a moment. Social media. Does social media play a role here in loneliness? Can social media keep one from feelings of loneliness, or is technology not capable of doing that?
I think it's a wonderful tool if it's used appropriately. It's great that a woman might be able to stay in close connection through text or email with her college-aged granddaughter. So I think it can work in a very positive manner to have social media available. But I think it's also a landmine. When someone who is not really savvy about the internet and so on is on the internet, scams and people who can take advantage of you just seem to come out of the woodwork, and so then you're extra vulnerable. And once you get stung, like you mentioned earlier, once you get stung, you withdraw, and then the loneliness begins to cycle and become more of an issue.
So we talked about the mental and physical dangers involved in loneliness as we age, but is there a way that we can avoid loneliness? What's the antidote here?
My belief is to have an open mind and not be closed-minded to something that's new. Your life is changing, which means that you need to change along with it. And sounds like a very simple concept, that if all your friends have died, that you certainly need some new friends. That sounds like a simple concept, but it's really hard for people to disconnect from those old friends and have the willingness to make new friends that may not be exactly like their old friends, but they need to be, these older adults need to be open-minded to change.
Is there a formula for making those new friends? How do you go out and making those new friends when you're 80 or 90 years old.
Exactly. Well, I think that's when prevention is better than the cure. All through your life, you should be making intergenerational friends, not waiting until you're 89 to reach out to your 40-year-old neighbor, but to connect all along as you're able to, so that you do have a history with friends. I think when you have a loss of friends, what you're losing is that history that you've had together and that familiarity and nostalgia. So to start out making brand new friends, there just isn't that history anymore. And so I think prevention, by doing it all through your life, having a diversity of friends and acquaintances, can certainly lend itself to fending off loneliness, preventing it in that respect.
Can getting involved with life, being in clubs or volunteer activities or church activities, I mean, does that help one develop the friends that one would need to avoid loneliness?
I think so. I'm a big believer that people should stay engaged with lots of different groups of people and stay involved with that group. Like you said, whether it's the senior center, whether it's a church group, whether it's the place that we all go to exercise, whether it's a club, music, dance, whatever you like to do, you should do it and keep doing it. Because you're going to lose members in that group. Certainly as we age, people that we know and love are going to pass. So we need to have that interconnectedness of a group that's in motion.
Mm-hmm. And certainly I think that connection and being part of a group is so validating and so important in terms of a support network. I remember when Michael Jordan retired from basketball, he said the thing he would miss most was being part of a team. And I thought, what an insightful thing, that's important, that we're part of a team or a group. And if you don't show up for coffee on Tuesday morning, somebody notices and calls you to find out if you're okay or what's going on. It's an incredible network of support. Even though they may not be close friends, it's still people who care that you are on earth and that something is going on with you and wondering where you are and what you're doing.
And we all need that.
We sure do. Yeah.
Pat Smith and Dr. Paul Hill, thank you for being on The Best Times.
Thank you.